Welcome, welcome, welcome. It's great to have everybody with us on the call. I am going to basically tread a little bit of water for the first couple of minutes whilst we welcome everybody in. Thank you all so much for taking the time. I know, we are 4 o'clock in the afternoon in the UK, but we have some glorious guests from all around the world. We have some notably from coming in from China. I know it's 11 o'clock in the evening over there, so well done guys for staying up late. Hopefully you won't be, you'll keep with us and keep Jingshan as long as possible. So we have, I think we had something like over 300 people sign up to the conference this time round, which is fantastic. Everybody who hasn't actually made it onto the call itself, we will be sharing the recording with everybody who's registered. We are not only organising these virtual conferences every month, we will be compiling some educational resources, as much as we can get together, which will provide inspiration for you guys to basically bring a global element into what you guys do within the classroom. So if you are looking to join the Alliance, the website is the best place to go, globalschoolalliance.com. Click on join the Alliance and there's a little quick and easy form here. It would be great to have you all join the community as we are moving forward. So what we will jump into straight away is, as we have 7 minutes past 4, the main body of the actual presentation. So this, as I said, is the second virtual conference that we have put on. Again, thank you so much for all your support. I hope we have a good couple of hours together. The theme for today's conference is really around this concept of a recovery curriculum. Do we feel that it will become an essential part of how our educational journey develops come September? Is it going to be a short-lived sort of initiative? Is it going to really impact it over the next 12 months? Is it essential? Or do we feel that it's actually going to pose potentially negative impacts on not only yourselves as frontline educators, but also for students' educational development? So we're going to have a look at both sides of that topic today in the call. So again, I'm going to start with some housekeeping. So the agenda, I'm going to continue with a brief introduction to what the Global School Alliance is. I'll give you a real quick intro to myself for those of you who haven't had the pleasure of speaking with yet. And we are going to then invite 5 speakers from all around the world. I'm going to start with Rob, and he is going to again bring us in with his presentation. So I'm going to let everybody introduce themselves when it comes to their presentation rather than myself. So we will start with Rob, and then we go through Seda, Luke, and Louise, and we'll finish with Inga. So again, each speaker will have about 10 to 15 minutes to go over their presentation. We really do encourage some questions, and if you guys have anything that any one person or any one part of the presentation you want to ask questions about, what I would love for you to do is to write that down in the Zoom chat. So again, if you look at your Zoom window, there's a menu bar at the bottom. The 3 dots will give you access to the chat box. Please do write your questions there. If it is for a specific speaker, please let me know. So as we go through, what I'll do is we'll collate the questions throughout the presentation section, and then I'll come back to it after Inga closes us out. the individuals who've asked the question and ask them whether they'd like to voice it and to take the lead from there. So as I say, we're looking for 10 to 15 minutes per speaker, and then we're going to close out with some Q&A. We were perfectly timed last time. I think we finished at 6 on the dot. So let's see if we can kind of keep to that schedule again. So Global School Alliance really does, the kind of purpose of the Alliance really is to bring passionate educationalists together. My experience has really come, I suppose, started as the student in this setup, where back in the day, I was learning Chinese in my secondary school, and I went on one of the first Brits to have the chance to do it. Went on a school trip when I was 15, spent 2 and a bit weeks over in China, which completely changed my life. It was very much the kind of the learning that happened around the classroom education that really kind of affected me the most. That then led me to be arguably one of, if not the first British person to do the Chinese A-level. I then moved over to China for 4.5 years, taught English in a number of different kind of settings, whether it be training centres, private schools, state schools. I had the kind of full spread over there. When I then came back, how interesting. When I then came back to the UK, the kind of mission was really, how do I really bring that experience to more schools in the UK? And so we basically started True Education Partnerships with the main focus of connecting schools from the UK and schools in China. We've done that for about 7 or 8 years now. And a big part of that has really been kind of international movement of students. Our focus has been on transformations, so connecting actually from a government level, regions, councils, local governments together, then connecting schools through partnerships, and then running CPD, running leadership delegations, student exchanges, and joint projects. So our real focus, as I've said, has been China and the UK. The whole, I suppose, the birth of the Global School Alliance for us is really now around how do we take all that great learning, all those great understandings around the infrastructure, and how do we open that out? How do we bring those great experiences to other countries that want to kind of get involved? And I think that although there's a lot that the British education system has to offer, we have seen, and a lot of the educators that have been with me over to China, which must be nearly 200 schools that we've taken over there. The Chinese education system has a lot to offer, and what we have found is actually the educational challenges are fairly constant, through languages and cultures, and realistically the art or the endeavor to learn and to educate is a human thing rather than a British thing, rather than a Moldovan thing. It's there are some universal principles, and the really, really exciting thing that we have found is that everybody takes a slight different angle to it. So our real mission for the GSA is, how do we create a platform for you guys to see things from slightly different angles and have a platform to share your unique approaches. So as I say, we've got a couple of really exciting things in the pipeline. Please do keep an eye on the website. It is a young website, but we will be developing it quite heavily over the next 12 months. I would keep an eye on the blog page. This is where you'll find some of the newer things that we're bringing out. Obviously, we'll be sharing them with all the members through the newsletter. One of the really exciting things is going to be our Learning Unleashed platform, which I will be launching to you guys towards the end of this year. But it will, if anybody's been involved with British Council, either connecting classrooms or e-twinning, you would have seen with the e-twinning platform something similar that we are looking to if I was to compare the mission to anybody else, it would be really about opening, doing e-twinning, but with the entire world. So yeah, that's the aspiration and the plan. Rob, I'm going to just do a brief intro to members and ambassadors, then I'm going to hand it over to you. So as I say, as a member, to be a GSA member, a Global School Alliance member, it's really about the school as an organisation. And there will be a number of different opportunities that we will be making available to schools to engage internationally. What we advise, however, is that as an educator, you guys really do fly the flag. So signing up as an ambassador, this is really for you as an individual. If you are, if you engage with the community and you see a lot of value and you're excited about the opportunities, that is when we would suggest that you bring your school into the conversation as a member. So again, as an ambassador, we will very much be looking to you guys to guide the conversation. We are always looking for contributors to creating informative pieces that we share out through the blog function. Again, the idea is we want to be building a platform for you guys. The more voices that we can kind of illuminate and what's the word I'm looking for? There's a word that I can't remember. The more that we can amplify, there we go, amplify your voices, the more that the community can kind of learn from it. So it's, again, when we are looking to decide on the theme for a conference, we'd love to hear your feedback. We will be going out inviting our ambassadors to come and share your personal experiences like the guys today. So yeah, there's a lot of exciting things lined up, and obviously, these 2020 has been an interesting year so far, and I can imagine that extending into the immediate future. But once I feel that everybody has had the chance to catch their breath, we're going to come back out to everybody with some really exciting things in the pipeline. So, Rob, are you ready to roll?
Hello.
Awesome.
Can you hear me?
Got you loud and clear.
Right, okay. I will share my screen.
Cool. So I will stop sharing mine and I shall hand it over to you if you want to.
Okay, can everyone see that?
Perfect.
Okay. Yeah, so first of all, I'd like to thank for this opportunity to discuss my ideas around the recovery curriculum. And also thanks to Hannah at True Education Partnerships for getting in touch with me a little while back and asking me to write a blog for their website. So thanks again. So a little bit about me. Obviously the deputy head of Brookvale Primary School in the United Kingdom. I wear many hats. I'm the curriculum lead, maths assessment lead, to name a few. And I've just started to blog during the pandemic, so my link is on the bottom there. Okay, so my school, we are a 1.5 entry school. Oh, sorry, go back. 1.5 form entry school, and we currently have approximately 286 children on roll. We have a creative curriculum, and our aims are to create emotionally resilient individuals, develop caring individuals, and confident and inquiring. I think that's quite an important thing. I think we've got to teach our children to question things. So I'm passionate about that. We're quite fortunate that we have a whole school pastoral approach, and on site we have our own pastoral team full-time. So we are quite lucky in that respect, and we have a full-time learning mentor and a child and family support worker who both can work with children individually, in groups, and also the parents. And we're quite a proactive school, so we do a lot of work with parents early on to support them with any sort of needs that their child or themselves need. Okay, right. Okay, so I'm not going to go through all of this, but this is my background on my educational journey. I did an art degree back in '99. I was a bit of an artist for a few years. I then started teaching adults from post 16 up until, you know, they were like 60 plus, 70 plus, working at different settings throughout Liverpool. Then I started to work with children in art galleries and other school settings. That then gave me the impetus then to become a primary school teacher. I completed my PGCE and started teaching in 2006, and I became an acting deputy from 2009. I joined Brookvale, where I'm currently at, in 2011 as the deputy head teacher, and recently completed my MPQH this year. Okay, so the recovery curriculum and our view. This has been something I've been quite passionate about from the beginning of this pandemic and this lockdown. I think it would be incredibly foolish of anybody not to consider the massive impact and implications of lockdown on school community, and it will have created a lot of loss and trauma. And with that will come a lot of attachment issues. So you take that into consideration. There's a lot more important things than academia from the get-go in September. So the pressure of catching up can definitely wait. So we've considered what the children really need first and what is essential for them. So we have chosen some areas that we think are essential for the children. Feeling safe, reconnecting, discussing worries and loss, and hope and gratitude. And they're the main areas that we're going to be looking at. And how we're going to approach this is going to be a whole school approach. So every year group, every class will follow these topics weekly. And that in itself will bring a togetherness in the school as well. Okay, so the way it'll be broken down as well. So we've got a recovery curriculum model. So first of all, I think it's essential that we create a safe environment for everybody, so that the children are ready, so staff are ready and the community is ready. Second point will be mental health and well-being. Now, I've already mentioned we're quite a nurturing school, and there's a lot of work that is done in schools to support children's well-being, but I think this needs to be raised another level again during this initial period. Thirdly, going to re-engage the learners with their learning, but again, in an enjoyable way. I don't think it's right that they should come straight back in September and try and hit the ground running where they left it in March. I'm going to have to ease them in, and the work that they do has got to be enjoyable and creative. The next point is identifying gaps in learning. Again, this can be done in a creative way. Identifying gaps can be done with a test, but again, we have said that we're not going to be doing that initially when the children come back in. So there's not going to be any formal assessments. We're going to employ this creative topic approach, and during this, the teachers are skilled enough to identify any gaps within the children's learning through the work that they'll produce. And finally, through that, we can then prioritise curriculum areas. So by identifying those gaps through these topics and through the creative approach, those curriculum areas will be highlighted, and then we can prioritise them moving forward. Okay, so the first topic is called feeling safe. And again, the reasons behind this, I think I've already mentioned, is that children and staff will need to feel safe and secure in school. And for some children, schools are a haven. So again, we need to try to re-establish school as a haven for children, because they're, you know, all their needs are met in school. Children will need to find their voice again. Once more, probably won't take too long for lots of them, because they've had months and months without seeing any of their peers or any of their friends. So they'll need to socialize once more. And then with that, feeling safe, it'll just give the children a chance of control and some normality to their lives. So the routine, again, is vital. That's what's been missing. So ideas, so there's going to be some work on routines. Obviously, it's going to take a little bit of time, but again, re-establish those routines. Class charters, so children, again, can use their voice to create their own class charter with their own individual classroom and teachers and their peers. And then the other idea is have guardian angels. These would be adults that the child will be able to speak to if they had any concerns or any worries, or equally it could be a friend or it could be an older child in school, because we have a buddy system. Okay, reconnecting is going to be the second topic. And again, the effects of lockdown will have evoked a sense of loss. And after all, children are social beings. We're all social beings. So having that missing for so long is going to take some time, and the children will need that time to reconnect. Not only that, the brain development may have paused through that lack of interaction and play with others. As I mentioned, routine has been disrupted. There was that uncertainty of not knowing when we're going to meet again, and then reconnecting will help the children feel safe again and feel some sort of normality in their lives. Ideas, lots of communication through play, and who knows, we might get children talking again and, you know, discover that lost art of conversation that seems to disappear when they become teenagers. Anyway, opportunities to play, because again, play is one major way that our children connect and interact with each other. So giving them lots of opportunities to play can also act as a stress reliever. And then I mentioned it earlier on, but the whole school topics will encourage that togetherness as well, because all the year groups will be approaching the same topic together. And as a school, we can then share all our ideas together. And again, just really make it a big together thing for everybody involved and reconnect. Okay, dealing with worries and loss. Okay, again, I've mentioned them suffering loss, and not only loss through maybe losing family members or people being sick throughout this pandemic, but also a loss of their structure and their daily routine, and schools, sort of, you know, the opportunities that they have on a day-to-day basis has been removed. So a lot of anxiety would have been triggered by that. And I think with that, we need to be very mindful. So I think there's going to be a lot of patience needed by everybody. And I think as school teachers and educators, I think we need to be very mindful of that and model patience throughout. So I think as the community as well, they need to show patience with everybody. And what better way for them to try to deal with loss or worries is to make their learning enjoyable and make them laugh again. So make sure that the learner is going to be creative but also fun. So some ideas, I won't read through all of these. Again, I mentioned the guardian angel. We've got the pastoral support and more opportunities for children to share their feelings, some mindfulness, and some art as well, because children might not be able to say something to you personally, but they can maybe show it in a piece of artwork. And finally, the main point there at the bottom about being active, I think that's really important, and that can help with a lot of stress and a lot of anxiety. And there are lots of benefits of exercise and keeping fit. Okay, and the final topic we're going to look at is hope and gratitude. Again, it's just being mindful to remember that when things are challenging and we're faced with challenges, it's that you've got to try to remain hopeful, and things need to be explored, and more positive things need to be explored, and pointing a way to a happier time. And remembering that it's okay not to be okay. So to share the problems with one another, and by working together, you can get through things. And then the final point about gratitude is just to celebrate those small things in life will be really important as well as we all come back together. So a couple of ideas at the bottom: create a gratitude display for staff and children, some dream catchers again, and then time capsules, and the time capsules can include children's worries or memories of lockdown, positive and negative, but also some of their hopes and dreams can go into the time capsules. And then also kindness. I think this goes back to what I was saying before about being patient, but also to show kindness to one another. So we're going to encourage a lot of random acts of kindness throughout school. Okay, to summarize then, we're going to focus on their emotional well-being, as that's going to be paramount to their recovery. There's going to be that time for the children to reconnect, feel safe, share worries and hopes, and re-establish those routines that have been missing for so long. We're going to reinforce that belonging to the community, and you know, all those things beforehand mentioned there will reinforce that belonging. And again, children need to be ready to learn before learning can take place. So if they're not happy and if they're not safe, and you know, they will not be ready to learn. So any formal assessment can definitely wait. And the gaps in the learning can be identified through those creative means. So the gaps can be identified through those topics. So during those topics, there's going to be English, and there's going to be other areas of the curriculum threaded right through those. And then finally, September, it will be a new start for everyone getting back together. And I think we should give them all a time to heal. Okay, thank you for listening.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Rob. I find it really quite interesting that the angle that you guys are coming from is really to first tackle any sort of emotional and spiritual and mental status of the child, rather than trying to jump straight back into, but look, guys, you just missed X amount of time of actual learning. We need to now we need to take the past 3 months and trying to fit it on top of what we had planned for the rest of the year and trying to cram it in. I think that was really the kind of the central point we were trying to get to with this theme was around, well, which approach is probably not a right answer for this, but which approach is probably the best? Like, is it worth going 2 feet deep into cramming what's been missed into, or actually is that kind of that mental well-being more important, and actually would that actually result in a better 12-month, 24-month, 3-year outcome compared to what we get done in 2020? Cool. Okay, thanks too much.
Thank you.
So, cheers. So we are going to go over to Cedar now. So if you would like to take the reign.
Yep, I'm ready.
Awesome.
Can you see the screen now?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Seda from Turkey. First of all, I would like to thank Global School Alliance for giving me this chance to take part in this organization. I'm really happy to be here. First of all, I would like to talk about my educational background. I completed my bachelor's degree in American Culture and Literature and MA in Cultural Studies. While I was in MA degree, I worked as an European Union project coordinator. I was in charge of exchange of staff and students, simply Erasmus program. And I have been working as an English teacher and head of English language teaching department for 4 years at Kocaeli Güneş schools in Turkey. I always like learning about, searching about international visions on the future of education and also bilingual learning. One of my interests is to find out about new techniques, new ways of teaching about the second language acquisition. My school is located in the northwest of Turkey. One of our school's mission is built on the idea that all students, regardless of their differences, should have equal access to education. So we try to promote an inclusive school environment in which students can feel themselves happy and safe. So we try to encourage a world-class education and bilingual education at the same time by means of activity-based model and CLIL, content and language integrated learning. We actively seek partnership, and we have by the way, we are not a state school, we are a private school, and we can afford the costs by our own school's budget. So we have exchange of teaching staff so that we can exchange good practice and facilitate collaboration through internalization. We have partnerships in UK, in Singapore, and in Malaysia too. So we focus on changing views, ideas in different aspects to get an idea about the quality of education. I believe that changes always bring chances. So when we think about post-COVID-19, the crisis actually gave birth to a new style of life, a new style of teaching. So in other words, it actually created a space, an opportunity for growth. It took us from our comfort zones and it forced us to think different ways of teaching and learning at the same time. After the outbreak of pandemic, the necessary precautions have been taken in Turkey, and schools have been closed since March, and it is predicted to be opened at the end of August. We had a very successful crisis management in our school. We were actually separated from our students and colleagues, but we were at the same time virtually connected. We had distance education, and students were provided with online lessons, online homework. So we had 3 months of lockdown, and it was a really busy time. It was unexpected. So I think that time was more than education. It was more like counseling, because what really mattered was communication. We had a very strong communication with students, parents, and with our colleagues. We try to counsel, we try to keep the motivation high and ensure that everything will turn into normal, everything will get better. And we have been working on recovery curriculum. And so we believe that there must be a smooth transition from houses to the schools. So it is obvious that students and parents will have lots of questions about this new normal. So we describe our recovery curriculum in 4 R's, like re-establishment, reconnection, renewal, and recognition. The common goal of those 4 headings is to improve mental health, the well-being of students, and also the parents. So when we talk about re-establishment, we can categorize into 3 headings, right? Rules and routines, physical change, and pedagogical framework. Over the past few months, students experienced challenges and anxieties. They really had a tough time. So before pandemics, the rules at home and the rules at school were different. So students could differentiate between the rules at school and at home. But now everything is mixed. So the student can feel the presence of their teachers at home more. So during online learning, homeschooling, each student was given a schedule and they were following that schedule. We believe that in our recovery curriculum, there must be a schedule, that's okay, but we should also be flexible. Adaptability and flexibility are very important criteria because each student has a different learning atmosphere, has a different family structure. So they cannot follow the same schedule. Not all students cannot follow it. So we put forward an individualized learning program for the students to get used to that new normal. We will follow flipped classroom, blended learning, but we mostly believe in the importance of emotional literacy. First, we should understand the students, and then we can go on our education. So So when the students are back in the classrooms, they will be taught about physical conditions, about safety and hygiene rules. Actually, it leads to a new way of communication. For example, the teachers will introduce new ways of greeting. You cannot hug your friends, you cannot high five, you should keep distance. But how? Let's use nonverbal signs. So let's thumbs up, let's wave hands. So we will make it more enjoyable. Or we will not say that we should wash our hands. No, we will sing a song while washing our hands so that the students are really little, so they cannot understand those sanitary rules in detail. So we will try to make it more fun. And outdoor learning activities are a very important part of our recovery curriculum. We are trying to nurture mental health. We will create new spaces and activities for students. For example, each morning we will start with circle time and we will only focus on their feelings because their feelings matter. Those activities will be child-centered and the teachers will be just guides. The children will be the leaders of their own activities and those activities will take the interest of students because we are working on contactless games. Each teacher will have a file of contactless games for social distancing. So too much has happened. So students have been hearing about the reports about the spread of pandemic. Maybe they have lost their loved ones. So now it is time to listen to the students. They need to be listened because there is a flow of information and they may lose their concentration. They cannot focus on one task. So as you see in the picture, their mind is really full. We need to encourage independent study, but at the same time, classroom spirit. The sense of lockdown should be replaced by sense of community as well. So I believe that in the renewal part, that pandemic also created a space for critical thinking because now we have a group of students who started questioning the things, who has a different mindset. And as teachers, we will face up to many questions when we come back to classrooms. So we shouldn't react. We should try to respond to those questions, those kinds of feeling crisis in a calm way. So the teachers will grow a growth mindset. I always relate teaching with feelings. Teaching is a profession with compassion. So we need to collaborate with the students in order to create a healthy, a peaceful environment. So those questions can come up during transition time. The parents most probably will ask those questions about the adaptation problems. My child was really successful before COVID, but he cannot do anything right now. What can I do? Or how much time should I give him before taking action? Just those kinds of questions will appear during transition period as well. So in our recovery curriculum, we believe in the inclusive, we believe a whole school approach. So we have an inclusive curriculum as well. So the support of parents and the support of staff cannot be ignored. We advise parents to express their ideas. So we are going to have parent councils at our school so that we can take their ideas and implement those ideas at our school. And also I have mentioned about outdoor learning activities. We are going to invite parents to our schools to take part in those actions because we cannot only design a curriculum that is only for students. No, parents are a very important part of this project. And we try to also encourage staff to train them about unexpected situations. We are going to give trainings about the crisis management because it is, I think, all about crisis management more than education. So we will try to improve a can-do attitude as a whole school. Learning, I really like this quote, sorry. Learning is not the activity of actually learners. It is the activity, it's not activity of teachers, but the learners. Because every child is unique. And we as teachers should pave the way for learning. We will just show them the pathways and then they will choose their way. Because if we overload students with lots of information, they will not be mentally ready. First, they should be mentally ready and then we can move on. There's a saying I really like: teach not what to think, teach how to think. Just show them the ways, just be a guide for them. So in our recovery curriculum, we aim to provide a safe and healthy environment. But the most important thing is to develop their social and emotional skills as well. Thank you very much for listening. That's all I can talk about.
Sid, that was absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's, again, one of the interesting things we've been able to see through, connecting everybody on the GSA is how each country has really dealt with coronavirus and COVID from a kind of government standpoint through to how does the general population view the educator's role in the crisis management? Like, how do the population consider teachers and schools, and like what is your actual role? Is it just teaching in the classroom? And I think over the past 3 or 4 months, what more and more people and parents have seen is not just the requirement to teach curriculum, but the whole pastoral care and the whole routine and support system. And it's so much more than just delivering knowledge. And it's fascinating, absolutely fascinating. Quick question before we move on. So in Turkey, students aren't back at school yet. They haven't gone back at all since lockdown.
Yeah, not yet. Not yet.
Okay, cool. And so in general, what is the attitude of teachers about the return? Are people nervous? Are they happy about it? Or what is the general feeling about returning in September?
Yeah, actually, we have a variety of scenarios to going back to school. So we have suggestions about blended learning, flipped classrooms. Parents are nervous about that, but teachers are more confident because we have learned the ways to get the attention of students, especially for online learning. Also, during online learning time, we had a really strong communication with the parents. So we know about their desires, what they want, what they expect from teachers. In general, things are getting better and summer schools have started. We don't have the learning as a whole school, but just we are taking students as parts by parts. In kindergarten, we also go on our education, but as primary and secondary schools and middle schools, we haven't started yet. At the end of August, we will start it, hopefully.
Interesting. And how have you? I will move on. I'm being naughty asking questions now, but and how have you found the online distance learning? Have you found it to be successful? Have the students interacted well, or has that been difficult?
Mm-hmm. Actually, it depends on the age. For the secondary students, it was successful. But for the primary students, at first we had a difficult time. You know that they had some technical problems and the parents are not used to that system. But as time goes by, they get used to that system. But I believe the teacher's role is very, very important. While we are having distance education, we have used many materials. We have used puppets, our own materials, even the tools in the kitchen. We try to make an interactive presentation. For example, while we were cooking in front of the screen, students were also cooking with their moms.
Oh, cool.
So they were not just sitting and listening. They were not passive listeners. They were actively participating in the activities. Actually, that's what makes distance learning successful.
Yeah. Love it. Cool. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Luke, we're going to hand the reins over to you, sir.
Right, thank you very much. Let me just share this here. There we go. So hopefully you're all seeing that now?
Yep.
Yeah.
Great. So, yeah, it's lots of themes, similar themes coming out actually, and similar approaches and models so far. So I'll talk you through who I am and then our kind of version as we go. So, my name's Luke Hale. You can find me on Twitter at Luke C. Hale. I'm currently a Year 6 teacher at Our Lady Queen of Martyrs in York in the UK. That's a 2-form entry school, so just shy of 500 pupils or so. Previously, I worked in North Yorkshire in a small rural school, so about 65 kids in total, teaching Year 5, 6. Before that, before going into teaching, I was a youth worker and worked for a charity where we supported 100 youth clubs, around 11,000 young people a year across a county. And it was my job to kind of design youth work programs and curriculum that these youth workers could go out and deliver. So I kind of have ended up doing that a little bit in teaching. So even at my previous school, we worked our wider curriculum, done that at Our Lady Queen of Martyrs as well for this year, where we introduced this Quest curriculum, which I now lead. Very similar to topics, but goes with these 4 symbols that are up in just next to my name. So Quest is actually an acronym for questions. That's the Q and the U. The mountain then is experiences, so trips out as well as getting people in or on Skype or things like that. S for skills, so how do we interweave those skills and how do we identify those subject specific skills? And then T is for total, so linking between subjects. Kind of that holistic idea, but Quesh didn't sound quite as cool, so we went with Quest. I'm part of, or my school is part of St Margaret Clitheroe Catholic Academy Trust, which you can see there, 17 schools, 15 primaries. Only set up last year around June. It started as a academy trust, although lots of us Catholic schools have worked closely together for years. And so it's brought a renewed energy to that, but lots of those relationships were established already, which has been great. My previous school and this one are obviously part of that. In terms of recovery curriculum, around mid-June, after the wider reopening, we started to think about what is this going to look like in September. Now we've got a few more pupils in. As the messages come thick and fast about what the future might look like, how do we start to plan for September? And the Academy Trust decided to set up some working groups, one of which being on curriculum, one on PSHE, one on assessment, one on wellbeing. And I was then asked by my head to get involved with this curriculum aspect, having worked on some different curriculum things over the last few years. And so we started to think about what does that mean, a recovery curriculum for us? And in terms of an answer to today's question, if I just flick on, there we go, whether it's essential or detrimental, some of those initial discussions kind of led to the idea that it was really essential, that we had to think about it, that we couldn't ignore it, even though we're coming back in September. And when we're thinking about learning, we're thinking, we're starting September as a new year, as September. We're not going back to the 20th of March and trying to fill all that 3 months into 2 or 3 weeks. I think somebody mentioned before. So it is really essential we think about it. And that kind of led us to this discussion around, so do we narrow the curriculum for a year, or do we think about just focusing on English and maths and lose some of that wider curriculum aspects for it? And essentially, we all came to a resounding no, that actually we could create a broad and balanced curriculum that enables us to deliver those skills. So we could stick with the enjoyment, stick with the excitement, and then deliver some of those essential skills that we needed, or we want children to have anyway. So after a few days, as we kind of reflected on it, we developed this model, which I'm then going to talk through. You can see there, it's got 3 pillars, 9 strands, and this idea of connect, process, learn as the 3 keywords. And then really, because we're providing something for the trust, so for 15 different primary schools, that they can choose to use or not, it's not it's not a scenario where we're dictating that all schools should follow this. We're just providing resources as we've done some thinking behind this. Here it is for you. Make as much use of it as you can or you wish to in your context so you can apply it locally. And so you can see the pillars are then built on the school and the trust values. So it can be applied individually. We've got the current curriculum planning. So it's not a huge overhaul of everything. Actually, these are some extra pillars to think about or to be aware of, with the idea, to round it off nicely, that these 3 pillars lift up our pupils as they come back, that they lift up the pupils, and then the parents that have also gone through a few months of attempting home learning in its various forms with a variety of results. So I'm going to talk through each of these pillars in a bit more detail for you. But I was really keen that the order of this connect, process, learn is incredibly important, and that we connect first. Sorry, whoever's underlining, I've just ruined it for you there. So this idea of connecting these 3 strands of purposeful talk, of reading and play. So purposeful talk for us was around, in terms of national curriculum, speaking and listening objectives, which in England is 1 whole page for years 1 to 6, just 1 single page for years 1 to 6. So we started to think about what does progress look like in that, and how can we map that out a little bit. I've just done half a screenshot there as a sample. Not so that teachers assess against that, because that's not what we're looking for, but it may be helpful for a year 4 teacher to see, the way this pupil is engaging with talk and conversation actually is still working at what we'd expect in year 3 or what we'd expect in year 2. So just to help teachers kind of knowledge around that, as opposed to, here's another form for you to highlight against each child. That's absolutely what it's not meant to be. And rather than just saying purposeful talk, rather than just saying speaking and listening, sorry, we called it purposeful talk because we were thinking around these children could have been out of school for 6 months. And they've not had an educational based conversation in that time necessarily. Or the way you talk in a classroom, or the way as a teacher you question a pupil to draw out their thinking. There's a deliberate nature to it that may or may not have been happening with such varied experience. And so there's an intention to those conversations and discussion. It's allowing pupils to reconnect. Could have called this reconnect as well. Then reading, I've got a couple of book examples at the bottom there, but finding books to share with children that will help them understand what they've gone through, or help them spot themselves in those books, or recognize some of those feelings. In fairness, Twitter's been amazing for pulling out those book lists. So many people have shared Padlets or spreadsheets or just blurbs or PDFs of different books that could be useful to help people kind of re-engage, connect back into school. And then it's been mentioned a couple of times already, but that importance of play. So we've provided a whole load of resources around social distance games or educational games you can do in the classroom, socially distant, and just as a bit of fun to help those pupils connect back into being in school, to being with their friends, and really prioritizing that element of play and chatting and talking and reading and just connecting back into what they knew was life for them for so long and suddenly taken away for 6 months. So moving from connecting into processing. So there's definitely an element for me and for us where pupils need to be able to process what's gone on. We can't just ignore it, but we can start to think about that. And the 3 strands here of metacognition, learning behaviours, and then PSHE as its kind of own folder, group, focus. So metacognition, that idea of thinking about thinking, we developed a bit of a progression map around that, and self-regulation of what might you expect in early years, what might you expect at the end of Key Stage 1 or the end of Key Stage 2. same as the speaking and listening and purposeful talk. It's not about having something that teachers have to analyse and assess directly and highlight off, but something that can help inform the teacher's thinking, that they have an awareness of what they might be looking for. These learning behaviours, so some people might be familiar with the Leuven scale of 1 to 5 of how engaged pupils are with their learning or how aware they are of their well-being. And so as part of some of our subgroup conversations, we thought there actually might be a lot of pupils who just come in as a 3. So they haven't necessarily experienced extreme trauma that they're aware of. They're also not super excited about getting back to school. It's kind of sitting neutral, maybe slightly towards the apathetic side of, oh, here's back to this. And so we need to be able to recognise that and then do something about that. And so we've provided some resources for teachers to unpick those. And then PSHE, we had a specific working group on to come up with resources like this one at the bottom here. You can see as a way that children can identify what they're feeling. And again, there's a whole stack of things that goes behind this in terms of, if I'm feeling sad or tired, what can I do about that? And spending the first few weeks teaching children what those actions are and demonstrating those as a teacher. There are times when I walk into school and I'm feeling sad and I've got 2 toddlers, so I'm also pretty tired. Actually, what do I then do about that to get myself through the day and not write it off? How do I process those emotions as well as what's been going on in recent times? Once we're through all of that, which of course will happen very quickly, only then should we really think about learning. And I'll come back to priority curriculum in a second. We mentioned outdoor learning in the presentation before. Really good for social distancing. It's actually really good anyway. And lots of this stuff, I think, and these skills, we know they're important. Just at this point in time, they're more importanter. There just needs to be a focus on them. And so our curriculum's not massively changing. We're just adapting it where we need to think about that. And then life skills, I've put a few in here because an aspect we were worried about people losing, or I was particularly concerned about, is some of those skills that children that have learned at home that they wouldn't necessarily get in school in this time. So maybe tying shoelaces, or making their bed every day, or folding their clothes, or hammering a nail. Maybe they've got involved with mum or dad putting some shelves up, or something like that they just wouldn't have done if they were in school every day. And so these life skills, we need to find a way to celebrate those and share those, let people talk about them, what they've done that perhaps they couldn't do before. And it might not have nothing to do with academia, and that's okay. In fact, I'm quite keen for that. That said, we've had some conversations around this idea of priority curriculum. And so we've picked out some national curriculum statements for maths, for English, for particular years, and said, like, these are the absolute ones that we want children to make sure they get in this academic year. So trying to slim down rather than narrow the curriculum to actually this element of fractions, off the top of my head, equivalent fractions is going to be really, really important for them next year. And therefore, let's make sure when it comes to it in our planning, we're aware that we'll spend a bit more time on it as we need to. So from that model, just moving a little bit more, it kind of puts a bit more here. It would be detrimental to totally narrow, but we're kind of still going forward with what we were doing. There's just some adaptations as we work through, some more things for, as a teacher, as a class teacher, for me to think about when these children walk back into my classroom in September, about how to help them connect and process. Again, these things have always been important, just more important at this point in time, is my feeling. So just going to spend a couple of minutes talking about, for our school then, what we've done about that. So that was kind of our model academy level, as it were, that we've sent out to the schools to choose from and use it as they wish. in terms of in my school at Our Lady, Queen of Martyrs, we started with our vision and values of, they're not changing. Our vision and values stay, we're keeping those. Living, loving, learning, that's still core to what we want to do and what's going on. And then we kind of had two things working simultaneously. So we had a recovery group, so a group of teachers to think about some of those things. And then I was also part of my Quest lead working on our curriculum development. So Quest was new this year. Last year it was, the school worked in single subjects as opposed to a topic approach. So there was still some work to do around developing that, because that's quite a big shift. And obviously we've ended up with about half a year to put that into practice. And so at the same time, this recovery group were looking at those subjects and those core skills. That doesn't necessarily mean core subjects, but those core skills that we wanted pupils to have, being able to self-regulate or understand their own learning and thinking, or understand how they might apply different things in different situations. At the same time, I was busy meeting with every year group and subject team to look at their curriculum for the next year and hopefully set for a bit longer, to develop this new long-term plan where we started to think about some other aspects that have been highlighted through this time. Say the whole movement of Black Lives Matter and diversity, and a real increased positive focus on that. I thought this is the moment for change. We can, I think it was said in the previous one that change is a chance, that we could look at that. So we developed a new long-term plan that, particularly around diversity, will give space for those discussions and conversations. While the recovery group were busy working away, thinking about what we're going to stop from pre-COVID to post-COVID. Are there any things that actually we think we don't need that now? It was another thing that we were doing to fill time, or as a workload issue. Actually, there's some stuff that we can just stop. We've not done it for the last 5 months and everything's been okay. Actually, maybe it doesn't need to come back. Then there's some things that we're going to pause, so or slightly change. Whole school assembly, can't have 500 of us in a hall together. That would blow all the bubbles. But actually, can we do that through Zoom or Google Meet? So still have that idea, but slightly differently. And are there things we're going to start? So some of those PSHE activities, or increase, even not just start, but increase those at this moment in time. And then these bottom two here, we thought it was really important to manage communication with staff, not just bombard with, this is going to happen now, and then this, and then this. Actually, we took a measured approach of, oh, this week we're going to think about this, then next week we'll think about that. And kind of took it step by step, really slowed it down, because not only are pupils nervous about what it's going to look like in September, but staff are too. Understandably, it's such a shift from what we've been doing now, which is such an even bigger shift from what we were doing before. We needed to just think that through. And so we came up with this kind of split planning. Off the back of the new long-term plan, we asked people to plan in detail for the first week or two, loads of transition type activities to help with that connecting and processing. And then by the end of September, we'll look at planning for the rest of the year, actually just to give ourselves some breathing space as well. Let's get in and see what it's like. And then we can build from there. Last couple of bits really. In terms of in class, for me, there's a massive priority on the structure and routines. I think that's one of the massive things that has been lost or missing or changed. And so something we need to work at to help children understand, move back into, come back to. Regular check-ins with pupils around their mental health, their well-being, and staff. Actually, how do we build that in? So we're going to look at in school twice a day, having at the bottom there, that kind of activity where it looks at what emotions am I feeling now? It's not only at the start of the day, but either after lunch or right at the end of the day, just before going home. Because actually maybe that's a difficult moment. So we need to think about that. And then looking at, if we need to, giving teachers the ability, freedom to spend longer on some of those priority curriculum areas, or just what they deem as the priority, putting kind of some power into teachers, individual teachers' hands to respond to their classes and individuals as much as possible. All of that being driven by this idea of purposeful talk and lots of opportunity to talk, and a heightened teacher awareness of what some of those things might mean. So there's the model. Then in my bubble, just to finish, last week, a year 6 pupil, off his own back, when he should have been doing some other work, but I'll allow it because it's very good, developed this, or wrote this poem that I'd love to finish with, because it's an interesting take on, from a pupil's perspective. So he called it Memory. Once there was a time of almost freedom, but then it was taken away. You may know the cause of this panic as COVID-19. Some people know it as doom. But as the world resumes, let this show you how it felt to be one of us. The government was well meant. Their plans were crystal clear. They made a plan and stuck with it, and made crowds disappear. The police were sent on March 20 and forced people inside. Tourism vanished overnight and Netflix rocketed. Panic ensued in the shops and dented supply. Education was put online and accessed for free, provided they had the latest version and internet technology. Workers were put on furlough and fell into hard and free times. Schools were key worker children only. As the months went by, nothing but bad news. As death rose from hundreds to thousands, not far fewer than 1,000 per day, the lockdown became even more strict, like a beast feeding on freedom. As the vaccine claims came from every angle, people were not sure. Until one evening, the roadmap was set out. May 24, no more stay at home. June 1, schools reopen. June 15, non-essential shops back in business. July 11, fun returns, and you can go on holiday. So yeah, that was one of our year 6 pupils, and that's me.
Super cool. Thanks so much, Luke. That parting memory poem is a winner. You should be encouraging that sort of distracted approach to learning. But again, I'm really picking up on the awareness by everybody involved that the kind of, again, the pastoral side, the mental health side of getting people back in, and it's not just about the students, and it's not, as you quite rightly just said, like, it's not just about the kids. Are they going to be nervous? Like, staff and at all levels within the school community, there's got to be some apprehensions there. Have you found within, obviously you're the trust of 16 other schools, has there been any kind of top-down structure from the trust itself, or has it been kind of loose guidelines that you've been advised to follow, or has it been, how have you found that experience?
In terms of like the health and safety aspects, then that's been at school level, and lots of conversations between school and the trust.
Yeah.
So like, from my point of view, I think the heads have been on calls with each other, almost constantly communicating and sharing.
Yeah.
This is what we're thinking. Does that sound good to you? Vice versa. And then in terms of some of this curriculum stuff, obviously we've developed a model and a kind of, well, we're going to put everything on G Drive for everybody to be able to access. But then how schools apply that has been left to school a lot more, so you can keep that trust in head teachers and autonomy. We're from a class teacher perspective, that's how it's felt looking up that way.
Gotcha. And how have you guys found the communication with parents? Has that been a success story, or has that been something quite challenging along the process?
I think probably 85 to 90% has been positive.
Gotcha.
I think then there's been areas where that's been tricky. So thinking now about my class, vast majority have engaged with online learning, or we've been able to have good chats with parents and that kind of communication. There then has been a couple that have been trickier and kind of get hold of or engage, particularly as time went on. And then there was a sudden boost from everybody about 2 weeks before the school holidays, where I think potentially parents started to think, oh, there's also another 7 weeks to come, but without activities being set by a teacher.
Yeah.
What does that mean? You know, normally you could get to the summer holidays thinking, great, we've got all this time as a family.
Yeah.
And actually people
so, oh no, we've got all this time as a family.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, that's been my experience anyway.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much. Thanks so much. So we are now going to move on to Anne-Louise. I'm going to be doing the PowerPoint jockeying in this place. Let me just get you up.
Here we are.
Right. So I was going to suggest, do you want to just let me know when you want to move
I'll just
on?
say next slide.
Cool, just like that.
All right? Yeah, next slide. I think that's fair enough. Could you go back one slide, please?
Of course I can. Yes, I can.
There we go. Hi everyone, my name is Anne-Louise and I'm the Deputy Head of King's College Infant School in Madrid. It's my first year as Deputy Head, so previous to that I was Special Education Needs Coordinator and Designated Safeguarding Lead for our other King's School, which is much larger, and that has just over 700 students. So although I'll be talking about the provisions for my smaller infant school that hosts just under 200 pupils, my opinions on how to approach the new normal are related to all age groups. So I hope you take what resonates with you and your schools and adapt where you see fit. Next slide, please.
Okay, Doug.
Okay, so King's College, just a bit of background then, we have 8 schools across Europe and South America. And in October 2019, we were bought over by Inspired, who are a global education group with over 64 schools across 5 continents. So this in itself brought about some major changes within the King's Group, and coupling this with a pandemic, well, we can say for absolute certainty, we will not be going back to how it was, and we will be embracing a new normal. Our doors closed on the 12th of March and we were suddenly open for learning online, and we continued every day until the last day of term, 22nd of June. I am sorry if there's anyone still at work. Okay, so sorry about that. Teachers and assistants were live online all day, and we were providing a range of lessons from our core subjects to mindfulness, PE to PSHE, you name it, we provided it. So our normal became online quite quickly, but it wouldn't have mattered what continent you're on or what provision your school were put in place. Our children were at home in lockdown and experiencing a wide range of emotions and trauma. By the end of the first week, our safeguarding concerns for wellbeing rose dramatically because we were thrust into a situation, the children more importantly were thrust into a situation that we were not in control of, they were not in control of. So now it's our job to make sure we regain some of that in September, and that has to be our #1 priority. So I'll aim to give you some ideas of what can be done, what we're doing to make sure that the return to school is manageable. But as everyone said before, it's small changes to our own pedagogical thinking that we can ensure that children are returning to school, that it's safe, but more importantly, that they're happy and that they are free to learn. Next slide, please. Thanks. Back one. There we go, thank you. So start off with the role of the environment, and this is coming in quite a lot with everyone else's presentation. So the role in the environment, we're all in agreement then it's pertinent to what we're doing and how we move forward. But research has shown that the classroom environment is the 3rd teacher. So if we ensure the environment stimulates learning, then learning will happen, it will take place. So our children have spent 5 to 6 months at home, and they will be fully adapted to the routines and the structures of their home life. So we have to mirror that at school. Having them return to a school environment that's inviting, that's homely and safe and nurturing, it will facilitate a smooth return to school. We know that some of our children were struggling to go out of their homes during COVID-19 lockdown when they could for 1 hour a day, 1 kilometre, and with one person. They were struggling, they found that very hard, and we know that. And even after the restrictions were lifted throughout the phases, we know that they were struggling. So coming back to school, children will experience anxiety, and some will display behaviours that will or may impact on their learning. So we have to make allowances for their return. So academically as well as socially, there has to be open-ended resources that are purposeful and explorative. So if children know their learning objective, it's been discussed with them, they know what success looks like, then they can be a part of the process, but only if their environment allows that. And I know recent publications from the Department of Education has suggested that they are facing a teacher in class, and we don't believe that that's how it happens. The environment has to spark their interest, and they have to be able to explore ideas themselves. This will mean looking at your classroom. It will mean standing in the middle of it and looking to see where children's imaginations can go wild. Do you have specific areas in your classroom that focus on creativity and scientific exploration? Do you have opportunities for exploratory writing? By ensuring there's a specific number of children, for example, you have an area in your classroom and you've designated 4 children to that area. Children know that, that's just the norm. So by doing that, children can count how many people are at a given station, and then they can self-check if they are allowed to join and play. So the decision-making skills and rule-following behaviours are developed from a simple environment structure. Thinking carefully about how we teach our children is crucial to developing autonomous children who know what's right because they live it and not because they're told to. After such strict rules, more than strict, the rules that were placed on these children, they were imposed on them. We can't have that in our schools. We have to be very careful that they don't have those restrictions when they come back. And I know that someone put in the chat earlier on, and I had a quick look, that someone on TESS had wrote an article about children need routines, not hugs. I'd rather use some colourful language, which is not appropriate for the webinar. So next slide, please. Okay, so the role of the teacher then. I'm going to talk more specifically about translanguaging and metacognition. And I think, Seda, you talked about this, about bilingual education and having that as an importance. So it's very similar. So to talk about metacognition very, very briefly, Kitchener in 1983, in his research titled Metacognition and Epistemic Cognition, he wrote that metacognition is the process individuals go through to reflect and monitor their own learning, how they learn, how they perceive, and how they solve problems. Epistemic cognition happens a little later. So as teenagers, they begin to understand the idea of knowing something and then reflecting on ways to solve problems from a known fact. So it progresses. As teachers, we should not impose learning on children. Children need to be involved in the process. They're not the sponges that we think they might be. The teacher should not be using didactic measures of learning and not rely on whole class teaching. Therefore, we believe at King's Infant School that the teacher must be of the mindset of play and how this has an influence on the academics. They're not a separate entity. So unfortunately, research has suggested again that there are many practitioners who view play as one thing and learning as another. So whoever's heard someone say, oh, now you finished your maths, you can just go and play. Well, for me, that sentence alone implies that play is not important. and therefore has no value. We only have to watch children play with water. For example, they pour it from a great height, they make a great mess. We can see the mathematical value in that, but only if we seize the opportunity as facilitators. We're not rushing in there and giving big explanations. So you would say something like, show me how you pour one water from one cup to another. Doing this allows you to observe how their motor and their spatial skills are progressing. So learning through play is imperative now more than ever. And I would encourage practitioners all the way through to secondary to try it and see how you can add that into your curriculum. So coming on to translanguaging now and seeing the learning happening, we need to allow these children to show us their learning. Now we can see it through observations. When they start to communicate, whether verbally or non-verbally, it's now more than ever, it's going to be in their home language. Translanguaging develops the whole child. It's fundamental to who they are, and it automatically includes them in the culture of a school and not as an added extra. Through translanguaging, they can play freely with their peers without fear of not being able to communicate. And the teacher's there to facilitate, again, the understanding. It's not there to allow it to happen, it's there to celebrate it happening. Oh, well, now we've talked about this word in English. How do you say it in Russian? How do you say it in Urdu? When our children walk through our doors in September, most of them wouldn't have spoken a single English word since their last online lesson on the 22nd of June. We must place strong cultural values on their language. We need to enrich the school culture and help them feel welcome and that they belong in their school. It's not our school, it's their school. So thinking about how we balance that with a British school, well, the answer is that being a British school is not about the language we communicate, it's about the style of learning. Learning through play, learning through exploration, learning through discovery. That's the heart of our education system, not the language we use. So it's crucial to their well-being, to their mental health, and it's imperative that they feel accepted, not tolerated, and that they are individualised, not institutionalised. Next slide, please. And then the role of the child in all of this. So again, with reference to play-based learning and continuous provision, I'm going to talk about very briefly, but I know that Mr. J Talks has been doing lots of webinars and lots of information. If you follow him, he will go into continuous provision. That's not my point really, but certainly it will be a focus for us in the next year. So the role of the child is really simple. They are the ones that are active in their learning. They're the ones working through the process from beginning to end, but well, as we know, children, they don't work in a linear scale. They go away and come back, they go away and come back. So they need to be allowed to do that. They also need to be allowed to develop the key skill of reflection, and our youngest children can do that more so than our older children. They like to learn why. You know, children are always asking why, but why, but why? Well, we need to jump on that. Linking this to play is really powerful because they can challenge themselves if they're given the freedom to do so. If you as a teacher are allowing it to happen and the environment allows it to happen, so you see how it connects together. All of our areas are really well planned, and we include the Spanish curriculum into this where it links very heavily with our topics that we're learning. So we close this circle, I'm calling it a circle, not a gap. We're giving the children the opportunity to explore in different languages. Giving them an open-ended task with personal challenge and enabling them to work with others will give them, again, that autonomy of their own learning. So a guided reading lesson, for example, they will spend 5 to 10 minutes creating a drama of what they've just read or what you've read to them, and it gives them the challenge of rereading the text again, understanding the main issues, debate surrounding it, they immerse themselves in the story and they work collaboratively with their friends. This ownership will create learners who are competent, dynamic, sociable, and most importantly, able to resolve conflicts. And last slide, I think it's the last one. Next one. Yeah. So all fair and well, how do we assess this? So for us at King's Infant School, not much is going to change. We will continue to monitor our children's individual progress. And I think you said it earlier, Rob, we won't be doing entry tests or anything like that. We have fully embedded in the moment planning in our EYFS classes, and we will continue to move this through to Key Stage 1, which links very well with the continuous provision. So with this comes in the moment assessment. Now I've just named it, that's not a thing. Maybe I'll make it a thing. We'll use observations and discussions with children. We will be taking time to watch them, watch what they're doing, whether they're playing with sand or writing a diary entry. Observation is a powerful tool. And our new marking and feedback policy relies very, very heavily on verbal feedback. And we do not have a single word in there as to how many books need to be marked in a given week. As long as we see children are happy and they're safe, they're making individual progress, so it's progress related to them as a child, but also having trust in our practitioners, it's vital. If they need support, then they get it. So our staff share this vision and know it's how we want to approach the new term, which you need to get your staff on board if you're doing anything like this. So back to what I was saying about the EYFS way of assessing our children's progress, we're making informative decisions as to how they're doing. Our staff are trusted 100%. They learn from one another. So staffing for us was really crucial, and we spent a lot of time, and I know that my head teacher is here somewhere, we spent a lot of time thinking about where to put our staff. And next year we chose to move some of our EYFS teachers into Key Stage 1 with a clear purpose: to continue the provision and help children through the post-COVID-19 lockdown. So by moving our teachers up to the next year, we're assured that the children will not be missing out on their previous year. So our pre-nursery teacher will be moving into year 1, and we know that she will provide them with the best experience of play and drama and songs and dancing each and every single day. Our year 1 teacher will move into year 2, and what she will do is enhance the knowledge and understanding of what continuous provision looks like further into year 2, and even beyond that into Key Stage 2. So not only this, the teachers will be able to have a better understanding of where they've come from, work alongside the children and provide a secure network of a secure network of support. There's no gap filling here, no gap filling at all. That's not a word that we're going to be using, no. So bringing it all together, it's not anything new that we think that we need to change. We only need to adapt and ensure we don't go back to the old way of teaching pre-lockdown. And again, I think someone else said it before, we definitely do not want to undermine any learning styles that the children have adopted at home, which will be largely play-based. I know that myself from my 4-year-old son. He's done nothing but play, you know. Their environment has been drastically different, and to throw them into a box standard classroom, it's not for us. We're going to make sure that we do not do that. So my final thought is to embrace this learning, embrace the change. And again, everyone, it's definitely a theme that's coming out in everyone's presentations, that embrace the change and use it to our advantage. With this provision we will be putting into place at King's Infant School, we will not need to run catch-up sessions or summer schools, and we will ensure that our children are supported throughout the whole year as we normally do. But in terms of curriculum provision, well, we'll just be more flexible, definitely more diverse, and absolutely 100% more imaginative. And that's it, and I hope you got something from that, and thank you so much for listening.
Louise, thank you so much for walking us through that. I've got a couple of things I actually wanted to just touch on. So you are actually in a quite unique situation where I'd like to build on the question I had for Luke about the kind of top-down approach that the Trust might have had with the schools. Now you obviously, within the King's College group, were in 3 different countries, I see, and now you're obviously part of a group which has got 65 plus. Like, how has the network of schools found the different national guidelines to Corona? Surely, like, we've had regional differences, but now you've got different, bigger scale.
Yeah, I mean, there's the $1 million question: who do you listen to? Well, for us, it's been our Spanish government. We've remained closed. There has been no in-school provision for any school. There were moments where we were, planning to reopen. I mean, my head teacher, she must have had about 20 million different plans to reopen, and then it was put back, and then maybe open, and then put back, and then not. So we definitely followed the Spanish guidelines in this case.
Cool. And the last one before we move over to Inga was more around, again, it seems to be a theme coming up, that there are changes that have been made and will continue to be made or followed. But actually, do you think that poses a good opportunity? Do you think that actually, there's a lot of stuff which we could be doing without, but is there a positive opportunity that going through this process has offered us?
For sure, definitely. I mean, we have to grab the bull by the horns, and we have to use this as the best opportunity possible. I think that coming out of this, every cloud has a silver lining. We had some really tough moments, of course, as did everybody, but there's a lot of momentum now, and we said it together before. The very fact that we are now more connected than ever is something that we have to move forward with. And I've written down lots of notes of what other speakers have said, and I've attended other webinars and connected with some people just to really make sure that we do not lose this momentum, and we keep going and keep changing and keep driving forward.
Amazing. Awesome, Annalise, thank you so much.
Thank you.
What I'm going to do now is I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I will hand it over to Inga. So we have your screen. Don't have your audio yet, Inga, so I would just double check that you are not still muted.
I have checked it.
Perfect, gotcha.
Okay, thank you. I'm glad to continue these beautiful presentations. Thank you for your ideas and inspiring presentations. I'm Inga Kiosa from Heritage International School of Moldova, Academic Director, and I'm proud to represent our great team of educators, dedicated ones, and our school community. I have always been interested and involved into project-based teaching and learning and global education. That's why it's very important to me to be part of global school community and try to find the solutions for the next school year, because everyone thinks, what will a return to school look like? And I guess for educators it's much more than just physical coming back to school. It's rethinking, reshaping education, and it's very important to find the solutions together. You can find our school on Twitter. You can find our school Heritage MD and find more information about this great institution. So if we speak about our school, it's a new school. We are only 3 years older. The first international school founded in Moldova, you can see on the map. It's often called the hidden country in Europe because not all the people know where Moldova is. Our mission behind education and our vision behind education is to prepare our students for the challenges of the future, developing them holistically, individual student to become an active learner and to achieve full potential in an international school environment. We have students from 19 countries. They follow Cambridge curriculum and mixed curriculum, National plus Cambridge. So our school is about education, about well-being, about the future of the kids. So if we speak about the lockdown period, the message from the school was our school is open, only the campus is closed. And the school has become a real lighthouse for the community. Our school followed a well-structured crisis management plan, and our DLP started the next day. We were able to provide a full daily interactive timetable online using Google Classroom, and we developed blended learning in classrooms. We used different strategies, different apps. We instructed the students, instructed the parents, and we supported them. How did we support the teachers? It was weekly briefings. It was sharing experience, primary school, secondary school. How did we support the learners? They received instruction from the teachers. They had variety of activities besides learning. They had interactive flash mobs. They had school activities. They had student council. They had the newsletters from the students. They had social responsibility activities. So it wasn't just lessons, it was the whole school activity just moved into digital space, let us say, and communication a bit different, as about 90% of students around the world had to do. And we supported our teachers, guiding them, because not all of them were able to teach using Google Classroom, even if most of them did it before lockdown. But we had mentoring activities. The teachers knew they could ask for advice, and our families could communicate. They received every week the bulletin where the frequently asked questions were answered. We were thinking of well-being as much as of academic, because we understood that our students were in their flats with the families and our teachers were with their families, but we had to continue, and the students were happy to do that. If we speak about successful distance learning plan, it was not only successful at school for our institution, but always shared with the whole community of the country. And we contributed, and I can say that we are proud that the ministry made the decision to follow our experience. And moreover, our director, Mr. Rob Ford, our teachers, they actively participated in webinars, in different conferences to share our experience, because we are highly interested to be transparent and show our example for any school, any educator to follow that. If we look at the next slide, there are some examples of our experiences. For example, you can see spring activities. So it was learning otherwise week. It was vacation, yes, it was for spring vacation, but we had science day, we had arts day, we had environment day. So every day of vacation was full of meaningful activities. We planned our family day. So it was again, meaningful activities to discover talent, to learn new skills, to involve the family. And the students shared what they managed to do. And it was, again, interaction and joining the effort of the community. If we speak about some activities, again, the older ones, they can even have free courses selected for them, for their interest, for their age, or it's virtual trip, it's reading adventure, like virtual library. But besides that, they can find new activity or STEM activity for them. And it was summer school organized, and you can see example of our conference. It was on July the 14th, international conference. We do think that learning from experts and sharing activities, joining the effort will lead us to success. And you can see one of the examples here on this slide. If we speak about change-ready system, going to the next normal, our message is that doing nothing is not an option. And of course, we have experienced the same lockdown, but it was different in different countries, and we don't have the magic stick to solve it in all the countries and for all the schools. But what we are going to do, having this successful distance learning program, and we had the high quality education program, and our students didn't suffer as much, let us say, because they were supported, and we had full-time timetable and well-being support. We are going to focus on 3 key points. It's, of course, safety and operations. We're going to speak about routines, rules to provide the safe environment. Yes, it's about bubbles. Yes, it's about the way to keep the school clean, to have different breaks, to go to the canteen. But I would focus on the next ones, well-being and learning, because they come together and people understand that well-being is has never been so important, such important subject. So if we speak about returning to school, because it has never been closed, it has always been open, speaking about heritage. The next steps, as you see, we keep in touch even in summer, sending the activities, because we do understand that our students do not travel, and the school has become lighthouse, because it's not only learning coming from school, but it's positive energy and advice and guidance coming from the school. And what are we going to do? It's to continue to think that it's vital for children, for their physical, mental, emotional well-being, and we have to involve them in effectively. That's why we will be aware that the students understand our expectations. They shouldn't be worried when they come to school. We have to find a way, according to their age, to explain which are the school requirements, why it's that important. We did it in March, April, May, during the lockdown period. In our weekly bulletin, we were sending information from parents, how to speak to kids, the sites where the kids can read the books, to avoid this trauma. And we are going to share expectations in the way kids could understand them and be confident and feel safe at school, but at the same time not to worry too much. And identify, assess the needs of our students before reopening. Of course, class teachers will help us, the parents inform us, because this strong communication helped us greatly. We did it even before the lockdown, and this open and permanent clear communication helped us provide this quality distance learning program. We are thankful to our parents who supported us, with younger ones even helping learn the technology skills, with older ones supporting them, because we understand it wasn't easy for the kids as well as for the teachers, but they're the kids. And we have to think of that for each class, for each age group before we open. We usually start on the 15th of August. We have an induction period. When we speak about long-term planning, we analyze what is important to be changed. But this year it's vital to discuss it, because it definitely will need rethinking, remaking the long-term planning. And we started doing that in June, because the teachers during the last weeks in June, they put together all the information about the class, about the learning, what went well, where we should pay more attention for the next year. And the teachers shared it with another ones. And the new teacher, in case it's new teacher coming to that class, will be able to see. But if we speak about the kids, 100% attendance was typical for our school. But anyhow, there were the students who were not able to learn due to their learning, the way of learning, you know, because they have different types of learning. Even if some students showed better results and even improved because it was more individual, but some students couldn't attend from because of family reasons or health reasons for a few weeks, for example. And in this case, we have to think of them, how to engage them without making the child feel the difference. And we'll consider the students with special educational needs, so disadvantaged ones, and children who had special conditions during the lockdown. And these are some of the steps from our directors Unlocking Lockdown for Education Community program. And of course, we have more points to ensure that well-being of the kids is provided. If we speak about learning and teaching, so here is important, it's important to think which are the needs of school and community. Of course, each school will have to rethink based on the issues they had, evidence they have, the way they spent those months in lockdown. And the recovery curriculum, it takes account of children, their families, circumstances, and I will speak about the way we are going to ensure that learning is, we are doing the best and provide the learning. So if we speak about the subject, teachers usually think that everything is important and we have to repeat everything that the children have skipped and in a way repeat part of the year. But I think it wouldn't be fair because children are stressed and it wouldn't work at all. That's why we have to think of relevant, meaningful for the students, the content and skills that would help them learn successfully during the next year. And the opportunity to re-engage with peers, because we are lucky to hear that our students are dreaming of coming back to school. They miss it, they need it, no matter how much we provided it during the lockdown learning. And the skills to enhance their ability to learn remotely, because in our instability, we think of that as in case of urgency, the child, maybe not 100% the whole school, but the child will need to learn remotely. And in this case, it helps greatly if the children have the skills. And the communication that helped us to build relationships and resilience. Again, we have to think that some students might be self-isolating, and we do have the parents who are afraid to send the child to school immediately. That's why, how will we deal with these situations? We have to think of a variety of scenarios. And if they are anxious about returning to school, it will need another variant from the teacher, another scenario again. And so our task is to manage the learning environment, adjust teaching to different learning environments. So it might be classroom when students come to school and there is physical contact in class. And as a school will think of safety and all the rules and routines will be in place, but it might be blended learning when they combine traditional teaching with online skills gained by kids, for example, even if they are in class, but group teaching will definitely be different. Or it might be two-track teaching when the students, some of the students are in class and some will continue with remote learning. It depends on the family circumstances. You know that not always the students are always to arrive to the country at the beginning of the school year. So we have to think of a variety of scenarios, and each teacher will think of the age group of evidence of the previous year. So variety of approaches to teaching and assessment is a must. It's not easy, but we have to provide it because it's better to think before the school year than challenges to be met when the school year starts. And teaching from a global perspective, our students, even during the distance learning, have been involved into global education projects, and it made them even happier because they could see that the borders are just, let us say, formal division, or formally can split the people, but education beats COVID, and students can interact, communicate, make meaningful projects, and that's why it helps greatly. And we highly appreciate that our teachers guided the students and helped them. How do we adjust to a new teaching environment? Firstly, we cannot just request from the teachers to be good without support. We have to strengthen teacher development and support over the long term, not only at the beginning of the year. So we have to think, how will our students be supported? We'll continue our teaching learning briefings, we'll have our induction session, but at the same time, we have to invite teachers to feel free to request or be part of mentoring program when we can advise or can ask the teachers to help each other, and mentoring to be a part of normal school experience. Everyone is professional, but if I know more, I can help you today, you can help me tomorrow. So that is the trust, and again, communication inside the school, which is very important. So we have a variety of podcasts, webinars, but we need to put them together. For example, when we start a distance learning plan, we have the bank of resources where we have tutorials, when we have different apps with brief description. And if the teacher wants to experience something new, he can open tutorial in different languages, because we speak English, Romanian, Russian in our school. And we have teachers, our language of communication sure is English, but we wanted to provide in different languages in case the parent would like to have this tutorial. And a lot of webinars nowadays teachers attend. So print or digital resources. We have created the bank of resources per each faculty, each department, where we have long-term planning. We have the information the teachers found and would recommend for another teachers. So faculty activity is very important, and the middle leaders can help the teachers greatly. So lesson plans, teacher learning briefings, they you can see to the right our Heritage International School best practices. It's that's a pity that I cannot show you right now more, because we have here tens of presentations of our teaching learning briefings made by the director, admins, the teachers. So sharing experience, guiding, showing how we can change teaching learning successfully or just modify, improve it. So we have a resource center, and all the teachers can come back, remember something important for them. And workshops, presentations, so it's very important for the teacher. The teachers have to know that they are supported. At the same time, student schemes. So the students have to be able to find the same key questions, objectives, but of course in the language appropriate for their age, and activities for independent working, because active learner should feel confident what is requested, what they know, what they, how they could improve their learning. You can see to the left the History MD, the site created by one of our history teachers, where you can, the children can watch videos on different topics and refresh information, or just understand it better coming home. Or if the child was not at the lesson, just to see what they have learned. If we speak about the next image, it's language arts. Again, recommended resources for vocabulary, for writing, reading, in different forms. It's not just academic, it might be in form of the games, but again, the students have to know that, again, they have the resource center and they can use information. They need support and they will have support. And again, the students will be ensured that they have maybe certain days or maybe certain time when they can come to the teachers and ask for help or ask for additional attention. It's important for them, because many of them might be shy or just wouldn't like to show that they know less, but we have to support them. We speak even the successful students who were 100% who have 100% attendance, they might have questions or be uncertain. If we speak about learning curriculum, no matter how good it is, now we have to think about assessment to identify strengths and weaknesses in students' abilities. So it will be good to give them the overview of the syllabus, what they have covered last year, and especially the month of distance learning, the child to see how confident he or she is about that. And we can use confidence checkers. I like the Cambridge confidence checker to identify gaps in learning, to help review confidence. So the child can look at the section and direct how the child feels to the left or to the right, and the teacher receives the feedback. It might be quizzes. Can we use the standard test? Sure, but would it be helpful when the children come after this difficult situation? So each teacher has to think of the way he can teach the students, but firstly to measure how much they acquired and how much they have from the previous year. And they can identify areas where the students will need more support and teaching time, even if the program is covered, but to continue successfully the next year. It might be alternative assessment because it's not only multiple choice, it makes the students create a response to assignment based on their knowledge. So that's why we can use any assessment which is suitable for our class. When we identify the gaps in learning, how can we address those gaps? We can use syllabuses, checklist, update planning based on the evidence we receive, and priorities the content and skills useful for the future learning, and assessment to be far from grading, assessment to show the kids how they can track their learning, not for the sake of the grades. And especially at the beginning of the year, teaching in line with the learning needs. So to shape the program according to the students' needs. It might be flipped learning, and differentiated teaching is as important as it has never been, I guess. This differentiated instruction will be needed in class because our students will come with different level. And we'll have the students who need accelerated learning to strengthen their results and their confidence. So it might be teacher-led learning camps. For example, now we have a language academy. It's not compulsory, but some kids want it just to start learning before the school year. So it may be between school semesters, as I showed those summer adventures or spring activities, like remedial learning activities, but at the same having fun. And we have to focus from tests and grades to helping students to find their own learning path. It will be important, and encourage active learning. Without that, we'll not be able to provide quality education. So what are the things to be considered? So targeted recovery learning programs are a must, and levels are likely to be different. Coaching support should be integrated into daily practice, not only at the beginning of the year. And social emotional well-being is as important as academic progress. Teachers will also learn together with the students, and new learning environment, it's not our choice, so we have to get ready for that. But at the same time, we have advantages. So teachers and students have acquired so many new technology skills and will be able to create flexible learning spaces and flexible learning environment. Could you imagine that our second grade students can easily, in a few clicks, create e-books, electronic books, and their parents were surprised. How could they do that? Because it's clear instruction and they like it. They found a way to express themselves. So technology enables schools to act as a learning hub. We started doing that as a learning center. And the parents are more involved. They are aware. For younger ones, it's a great help, opportunity to engage them and become part of community. And the students are motivated, having the parents as part of the community. Unlocking the lockdown plan, principles, updates should be shared with the education community as we permanently did. Effective communication ensures well-being of the whole community. So unlocking the lockdown means new challenges. It's future-ready teaching, many scenarios. Each school will work on it. And you can see the message from our teachers during the lockdown, how much we miss our students, and our students, I am sure they miss us as much. So we can see that what might have happened is not what we should be focused on. We have to be ready for new normal changing into the next normal. And I'm sure that this experience of the conferences, of joint efforts will help us. It's not easy, but we can do it because working together is a success. And we are already coming to that result. Thank you so much.
Yeah, superstar. Thank you so much for sharing with us. Again, guys, thank you so much for being with us on the call today. I kind of feel that although we're 5 minutes over the allotted time, we could easily go back to each of the speakers and have a much more in-depth conversation. I feel like we've covered a lot of ground, which is absolutely fantastic. Inga, what I will ask of you, if that's okay, you mentioned that you guys had built a kind of like online database with like apps and webinars and resources. Was that something that the Heritage School had done previously, or was that in response
We have always
to the
been
distance
doing
learning from COVID?
Teaching learning briefings is our practice of professional development. Every week we have the teaching learning briefings where the teachers present what they have found, what they have done. So our director has had many presentations. It's any topic included. It might be class management, well-being, it's the school community. And moreover, we had our assemblies, weekly assemblies, and they continued during the lockdown. So primary school assemblies, secondary school assembly. So there was the class in charge to present that assembly. So our activity besides academic one is fantastic because we had virtual choir, we had different challenges the students could take part. So it was art gallery, it was craft lessons. That's why we just continued what we have always been doing. What we have done during the year, it was put together, and best practices are on one of the sites I shared.
My internet dropped out on me, so I'm just dialing in from my phone. Again, what I would suggest and what I wanted to really show you guys before I dropped off is that usually we would have a good half an hour to kind of go over things and really jump into a lot more detail on the Q&A. We're going to struggle this time around I think, so we might look to organize another mini Q&A session that we can go into things more. But what I would suggest would be a nice idea as well is that we actually have a Global School Alliance Facebook group, which is available to everybody who is a member. What I'd like to do is maybe not right now, but maybe, in fact, from now on, either this evening or maybe tomorrow at some point, it'd be great if some of the presenters and speakers could maybe make themselves available in the group. And if anybody's got any more questions that we can pick up on, it'd be great to if you could chuck them into the group and we can start a kind of conversation there. Facebook group for August and September will be where we're going to be kind of organizing the ongoing discussions. The plan is from September moving forward, end of September, that we will have a better solution for that. But I don't have it just now. So am I frozen again? No, I think I'm still here. So again, I will wrap up and finish up the call with just saying once again, guys, thank you so much for turning up and tuning in. I know that we've had Chinese guests who it's 1 o'clock in the morning over there. So well done you. Everybody who has signed up to the to be a part of the conference, you will get a follow-up email with the link to the recording. If you could be a little bit patient, it'll probably be with you Friday or over the weekend. Again, I'll finish up by saying thank you all so very much. Hope you enjoy the rest of your evenings, and I'd love to catch up with everybody again soon. Okay, cheers guys.